Hi everyone, my name is Friederike Peters. I'm an intuitive coach, and today is my first interview about the dark night of the soul with Alison Reid from California. Alison is an intuitive guide, a sound and energy healer, and also an empowerment advocate. I'm very, very happy to have her. Welcome, Alison.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Let's just dive right into this, shall we?
Yeah,
Um,
sounds good.
I think I think it was through Instagram that I was saying I would like to make an interview series about the Dark Night of the Soul, and you contacted me saying, "Oh, I would love to be interviewed." What made you answer me?
Yeah, well, okay. So, I mean, this, you know, concept of dark night of the soul, this idea, this experience rather, was a huge part of my journey, and especially a huge part of my, spiritual awakening, so to speak. I you know, I was diagnosed with depression when I
Hmm.
was around 13, 14,
Oh, wow.
and and from that point on, for 15 years, quite literally, I was on a host of different medications, and I was, went through a really, really painful experience,
Wow.
where I was suicidal. I was going through, battling addiction. I mean, it was a really very painful experience. And so, throughout that journey, and then where I am now, where I feel like I'm in a place of, such empowerment and such joy that I had never, experienced before. I was like, okay, I would love to kind of share it, just my personal experience with this in case it, resonates or helps one person.
Right.
Then,
Well, it's super interesting that you talk about depression because I was researching this topic, of course, and um, there's this definition that is not really clear. Some people say it's like a depression, but then other people say, well, it isn't a depression, but not really because you are depressed about spirituality, basically, and you wake up with more meaning. What I liked was the definition that I found by Eckhart Tolle, who says it's you find yourself in a state of meaninglessness where everything becomes meaningless, and then you can transform through that. Is
yes.
that kind of the definition that you would give it, or how do you define it for yourself?
Yeah, so for me personally, so this is where I just want to like really say, depression and dark night of the soul, it's going to look different for everyone.
Mm,
Everyone's journey is going to be very, very unique. Um, with that being said, for me, when I was experiencing this depression, this dark night of the soul for years. I mean, like I said, it was really prolonged. I yes, I was in what I would describe a void. So it
mm,
felt as if I had no energy. I could hardly get out of bed every morning, and I know so many people can understand that. It was just this lack of lack of meaning, lack of excitement, lack just confusion, and just darkness. I mean, it felt like it took such an effort every day, and it was like I was forcing myself to exist,
mhm.
and I felt this sense of deep loneliness inside of me, this sense of like of loss and grief, and um, and disconnect from
Mhm.
myself, and
Mhm.
ultimately a disconnect with other people and the
Mhm.
world at large. And that's where the suicidal thoughts and all of that came in, because I felt so disconnected, and therefore it was like well, what's even the purpose of me being here? What's, why is life just, is this all there is? And so my heart just goes out to those that are in that right now, because ultimately I was there for 15 years,
Wow.
I mean, and it took looking back, I don't even, it was all such a blur, I mean, I ended up, going to college and graduating and getting like a corporate, job where I was actually in corporate PR, and I was kind of in the whole the whole 9 to 5, thing for a while. And
you functioned basically.
I functioned, but barely. I mean, it was like I was so disconnected from my heart, from myself. I'm very open about, I was, drinking all the time. I mean, I was just checked out. I was literally, each day was like, I was just getting through the day. I wasn't thriving.
Right.
It was such a struggle. Yeah. It was like walking in molasses every day.
So when did you start seeing the light, let's call it? Like, when did you start getting a different perspective? Because I think you were so young when this started that it was basically, it sounds like just doom. Like
right.
You were not aware that insight was coming at that point that it was starting.
Right. So, okay, so that's a good question. Looking back, okay, so I had to get to a place, because again, for years and years, I was just functioning each day. I wasn't thriving, but I was okay. I just kind of was plowing through. And I would say, let's see, it was in between, I think it was like the end of 2014, when I just started just spiraling downwards. Like my depression, these suicidal thoughts were just insane, just ever present. And I just felt this sense of like, I don't want to be here. I'm done. I'm done with everything. I can't even, I can't. And, within that, I actually, was hospitalized for depression. And that was like a really, it's very intense, as you can imagine, experience, very scary. And I got out, and I basically was like I'll never forget this. I was on the bathroom floor just sobbing, and I screamed out and I said, if there's a God, if there's anything, if there's any purpose to any of this, show me now, because I'm done. And within that, I remember this wave of what I now know to be my guardian angel coming over me, and it's gonna make me cry. Just wrapped me, in his arms, and he just infused the purest love, of God around me. And within that moment, I remember also feeling and remembering why we're here and what this is all about. And it's, from my perspective, we're all love. We've just forgotten. So many of us have forgotten. That's part of this experience. But it was within that kind of gave me this boost of energy, which then allowed me to start evaluating my life in ways that I hadn't before, because I was just on autopilot, with all the drugs, with all the alcohol. I was just on autopilot. And on the surface level, looking into my life, I had a perfect life. I was married at the time. I had this really successful, corporate, job, and everything was great. But within, my soul and my heart was was dying, you know, because I was so disconnected from my authentic truth and my authentic voice and who I was. So within that moment, and within the next, I think it was a week, I think I took time off work, and I just like really evaluated, you know, my entire life, and I realized, wow, like I'm not happy in my marriage at all, you know, at all. I'm not happy doing this corporate job. I'm not happy at all. So it was an act of pure desperation, because I saw, you know, the life path potentials of both, of me staying here, and I wouldn't be alive today probably if I stayed where I was. And then I saw the possibility, the hope of what this other path could bring.
Mm-hmm.
And not even knowing what the hell that would look like, not even knowing what I would be doing, could be doing, but all I knew is that there's something else. There has to be something else. And it was like what happened, you know, in the bathroom. It was like the seed of hope was like planted within me.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked down that path, and I just said, okay, I don't know where this is leading, but I just know I have to change. Something has to change.
Mm-hmm.
So I separated from my husband. I, you know, moved down. I was in the Bay Area at the time, San Francisco. I quit my job. Not having anything lined up, but just knowing I had to do it, and moved down to Southern California, which is where some of my family, you know, is down there too. So as I did that, and it was like, again, each day I just knew, okay, I just was like, there has to be something more. And I've always had a very strong connection, you know, to God, you could say, like to a spiritual connection. I never really was able to like tap in intuitively. Well, that's not true. Okay.
Well,
looking back,
actually, yeah.
Yeah.
So that moment when you say you were wrapped in this love, you were basically on the floor. You were done at that point.
I was done.
Retrospectively, do you think that you actually had these signs of this kind of love between, but you didn't see them at the time?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I mean, we always are supported. We always have so much love. But what happens, you know, when we're in this just the lowest of low of powerlessness, the state, you know, energetically and vibrationally, we can't feel it because we're not there. And a lot of times, again, this is something that like I actually teach and talk about with my clients, is that we live in a free will, you know, universe. So angels and guides, they can't fully step in. I mean, they're always helping us. They're always helping us. They're always around us. They're always kind of planting seeds. But in terms of like really, really big things, you know, they can't interfere with our free will unless we ask. So that's why I'm always like, ask. Every day I'm always asking, even for little things, right? And so,
Right.
yeah, and so, oh my God, what was your question again? Sorry.
No, you answered
I'm like,
it.
okay, good. I'm like, did I answer that question? I'm just being,
But,
okay.
So someone who listens to you and heard your story and says, "Oh my God, I feel like that all the time." What kind of advice could you give them? Because maybe they're afraid of, well, I have to hit rock bottom now, otherwise I won't see the light. How
Right.
can they maybe transition out of this without being totally on the floor?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a great question. Again, okay, so setting the intention is just asking, and even just like planting the idea of curiosity, like what would it be like to not, you know, always be feeling this way? What would it be like? Is that even a possibility? As you ask that question, it plants the awareness out there. It plants like that seed of possibilities. So I would advise people to look down that road of possibilities. Reach out to people who can support you and be with you where you are now too. That's super important, to be around, you know, people that are loving you unconditionally where you are in this moment. Because so often, and this is like one of my pet peeves, I know you can like relate, but when coaches or healers, like, they can invoke so much shame for where you are in the present, because, you know, well, okay, let's get you out of it. When from my perspective, let's actually delve into, you know, why you're there, and your body is telling you something, you know, and let's be really present and nurturing and gentle and understanding with why you are where you are, you know. And so let's start exploring the present and shining the light of compassion onto where you are. So that's the first thing. Number one, be compassionate and loving with yourself, and just release the guilt or the shame of like, I shouldn't be where I am. No, that's bullshit. Like, there's a reason where you are. There's a reason that you're where you're. It's like really hard for me to say. Oh my God. There's a reason, right? And so again, you know, that's number one. And then number two is reach out, connect with other people who can, you know, be on this journey with you. Because I would never be where I am now without that support that I manifested around me. And for people that are living in isolation now, and they're saying, I don't even know, how do I get supportive friends? Like, my family is abusive. My friends don't understand me. I totally validate that, you know, but there are people, again, set that intention and ask, you know, if you're open spiritually, like, ask your team, because I promise all of us have a team of angels and guides around us. Ask. When you do that, you're very specific, you know, miracles happen.
Right.
True miracles. The beauty happens. It starts unfolding, and you don't have to figure out the how. This is not up to you. Yeah. The universe figures out the how. You just have to figure out the what, and it can be very broad. Right. And you know, and reach out to others who've gone through something similar and can, you know, mirror back to you.
Yeah, and that's actually one of my biggest lessons, I would say, if I can share, where I had a little moment where I wasn't well at all, was that I learned that we have to also let people know how we're feeling. We have to learn to be vulnerable, because I had a key to my very good friend's house, because I didn't want to be alone. And I could sleep in the same room with her, and she still wouldn't know how bad I was feeling. Because you can only, like, people want to care, like, people really care, and they want to help you. But if you're not willing or somehow feel unable to communicate that, they can't know how you truly feel inside. So I think you can actually, I mean, of course, there are always people that will not be able to handle this kind of vulnerability, right? And I will not say these people don't exist, but there's a majority, I would say, of people who genuinely want to care, but you need to let them know that you need their care.
Yes, absolutely. That's so important. And you're so right. It's like, and we've learned, I think, as a society, that it's like there's something wrong with us if we're crying or if we're upset. No, hell no. That is part of the human, you know, emotional experience, and that's what makes us so beautiful, is that we can feel the depth of all these emotions. And you're so right. The more and more also, like, we're able to be, I think, just like compassionate and present with ourselves, and like not judging ourselves when we're down or when we're crying. It's like, you know, I think that that's a really good thing. And then also, you're exactly right, connecting with other people, that, and just being authentic and vulnerable, and allowing yourself to be totally real, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So,
that's.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, that's really, really important.
Yeah.
Because again, we're not meant to do this by ourselves.
Exactly.
At all.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Isolation is torture. I mean, quite literally. It's just not, you know, so yes. And when we set that intention of bringing those kind of people in, boom, like, it will happen.
Yeah.
It will happen.
Yeah. So in every interview, I have this little authenticity moment where you get to ask me a question. So if you have one for me, I'm ready to take it.
Ooh, okay. Let's see. Well, I'm just curious, what kind of sparked your interest in this topic? Like, I'd love to know.
I was wondering about how I got this idea myself. I think I was just watching some kind of YouTube video. That's my dad watching soccer downstairs, by the way. I don't know if you heard that.
I did hear a little grunt.
So, and I think this came up, and I started wondering about my own journey, and generally about this journey, spiritual journey, and wondering also if it does have to do with pain, or all the time, you know, or is pain unavoidable? Do we need to go through this dark night of the soul? Do we need to hit rock bottom to, like, spiritually grow? Like, what's all this about, you know? I'm really, I don't want to say obsessed with pain, that's wrong, but I was wondering the other day about the origin of pain, because there's so much pain in the world that I'm like, if you even trace this back, like trauma after trauma after trauma, if you trace it back, like, I was like, where is the origin? Like, why do we have so much pain? And some of this interest started developing, and also wanting to know what kind of insights come, and how people manage to move through this. I think that's the best answer I can give you.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree. It's fascinating, and that, the origin of pain, that's like a whole nother.
I know.
Whole nother topic.
I'm gonna let you know if I figured that one out. So if people want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, so my site is AlisonReidHealing.com. So you can go on there and book. I do free 15 to 20 minute consultations, so we can, set up a session or a plan that feels really, organic and good for you. And then I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. I am very active on.
We'll link all of these things.
Yeah, perfect.
Below
YouTube.
On top, I don't know.
Okay, perfect.
And just a little bit about your services, because you are a sound and energy healer as well. Do you want to talk just a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. So, I do empowerment. Really, I offer a variety of services. So I do empowerment, intuitive coaching sessions. But the crux of everything I do is based on empowerment and self-love. So, so there's that. There's my more coaching one-on-one sessions. I am a sound healer, so I actually, this is like a whole nother video, but I recently, over the last year, through meditation, started bringing in these like light codes, so to speak, are these sounds, which are very, very healing. So channeled sounds and songs, which I bring to clients too. And so energetically, it can help, with different, healing, really help to raise our vibration. So there's that. And then I'm Reiki certified. I do a type of, so I do that, but then I also do a type of like personalized energy healing for people. So really everything I do is very personalized to the client. Right. I'll tap in and just like really feel into like, what's in their highest interest and what would be the most, empowering for them in each session. So
sounds amazing. Sounds amazing. So,
Thanks.
is there something that I haven't asked you? Something about the dark night of the soul that you would like to share with people?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess one thing that's just coming through right now is just that, these times, right, where we're in the dark night of the soul, in this void, so to speak, it gives birth to our greatest expansion. It gives birth to our desires. So without the absence of who we are, of the absence of love, the contrast, right, of joy, we wouldn't ultimately truly know ourselves. We wouldn't know what really brings us joy, what brings us this sense of connection and love and purpose, so to speak, in the world. So it brings rise to the most clarity that one could ever experience. So I just want to like plant that seed of like hope and bigger kind of context for why I think the purpose of this is, right? So because within everything, within the universe, there's light and there's dark. There's this like, contrast. And within the contrast, again, brings rise to greater understanding. So while, people are experiencing this dark night of the soul, just really have the deepest level of patience and compassion and love for yourself during this time. It's part of the death and rebirth cycle that we all kind of go through. This is like, the seasons. So I look at it like when we're in the dark night of the soul, it's like we're going through this energetic winter, so to speak. We're like shedding and then it's bringing rise to so much more clarity and perspective within us. So that's just what I really kind of want to say. And then also just, again, I just keep like hearing the word compassion. It's like, just be so compassionate and gentle with yourself and like, and reach out, like you said, reach out, connect, and really know that this is not going to last forever. Like, God knows I thought it was going to, but it really does not,
I like that you talk about compassion. One of I think my biggest lessons was that I realized it's not about so much about the emotions or the so-called negative emotions, but it's more about the attitude that we have towards ourselves while we are in these emotions.
Exactly.
So it's not, like you said, don't feel guilty for feeling bad, right? It's please feel bad, but it's about the attitude of allowing yourself to feel bad, and don't put any like time limit on it. Like, okay, now I've been crying for 3 days. It has to be over now, right? Because that's what we like to do. But that's not how emotions work.
No, absolutely. And again, it's like we wouldn't be shaming a crying baby.
Exactly.
We would be nurturing him. We would be holding him, and we'd be, tuning into what the crying baby is trying to communicate and tell us, and just we would be present, with that. And that's what I like to tell my clients with emotions too, is just cradle them, allow them to express themselves, and that's, again, that unconditional presence, and not trying to shift it or change it, but allowing it to come through. From my perspective, that is the gateway to unconditional love. That's, it's like, that is the way that, that we're going to, it leads to the most profound healing when we do that. So yeah,
I'm so excited. I feel like we could go on talking forever.
I know, me too.
So thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you. This was so amazing, and I just have so much love and so much respect for what you're doing too, and you're just such a bright, beautiful light. So thank you.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. Okay. All right. Well, I'm sending you all my love and just giving you the biggest hug.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.